Hello everyone and welcome to today's art stream. I hope you are all having a wonderful week so far. I am Rachel. I'm sure most of you probably know that quite well by now. And I love to do Dungeons and Dragons artwork and other kind of artwork, but the most common thing I get commissioned to do are Dungeons and Dragons characters. So that is of course what we're working on today, because that's more or less what we work on every day. So anyway, for today's stream, we are going to be working on a couple of cool characters. We are going to try and finish off this lovely Aasimar character, which will include their adorable little celestial kitty cat familiar. And the thing we are actually going to do first, before I move on to this particular character, is we are going to be, just a few details up there, we're going to be finishing off a reference sheet. You may have seen this character pop up on my my socials yesterday. I uploaded the full body artwork. And today what I'd like to do is I would like to finish this reference sheet. As you can see, most of the elements are done. We've got the two different portraits on the right hand side. We've got the weapon. We've got a little kind of optional extra that was added on. They wanted to show their kind of spirit guardians take the form of these like a flock of ravens of different kind of colours, running from white to blue to black, and then obviously a little locket with the symbol of the Raven Queen upon it. So the last thing I'm going to do with this reference sheet is I need to do something to fill in this little bottom corner, and for that I am probably going to add in just a little pouch to show like a little supplies bag and maybe a little raven skull down there as well. So that's what we're going to be adding today. To start off with, Shizia, thank you so much. This reference sheet has been so much fun to work on. This character has been an absolute delight. The reason for this kind of nice bit of architecture in the background is their character is from Port de Mali, and I wanted to just kind of get a little feeling of home in the background of the ref sheet. So, without further ado, let's just kind of get started straight in. So, what you're going to get to see today a little bit is a bit of kind of how I construct my drawings. I'm going to be starting with a little sketch just to kind of show you how I get the shapes, and after that we're going to be working up a bit of clean line art on top of it before we move back to our main character, what we're going to be working on. Yeah, so anyway, we want to make sure our transfer setting is on. That just I find is the easiest for constructing sketches, and we're just going to grab a kind of mid-grey for like planning out this object. So all this is going to be is a fairly simple kind of like adventurer's satchel pouch type thing. So we're going to basically start with a kind of a slumped kind of cuboid shape. So kind of like a fat slice of bread is how I imagine a lot of belt pouches when they're not kind of being worn. So we're going to start with this kind of shape here. Obviously over the top we have the kind of like the closure system, so we're going to have a little flap coming over the top there, and that's going to have just a couple of little belt buckles coming down like this. And then what we can do is, all my brushes are wrong right now. We can just basically erase there to get that looking nice, and then adding some little buckles here. There we go. That's kind of like the main body of the little bag there. I'm just going to move it over very slightly to about here. And then we can just show the areas where it would kind of go onto the belt. You tend to get these little kind of loops. I've got a few belt pouches with this kind of design. It does a bit, doesn't it? Polite old man wearing glasses bag. I'm here for that bag. And it's going to be a fairly plain bag. The commissioner didn't state that this character had any particularly complex or fancy in the way of bags. So we're going to do a little bit of decorative stitching up the side. Just show it over there a little bit, and that'll be the basic shape of our pouch. And then what I want to do coming out next to the pouch is to have a little raven skull. So that's what we're going to add onto the side there. So I'm just going to bring up a little bit of reference so I can see kind of what I'm doing. That should do. And we're just basically going to pop a little raven skull just peeking out from behind it. It's just like another little It's gonna be quite a large skull. And just, I like to, with the ref sheets, I like to add like a little selection of little knickknacks and items that the character might carry to kind of add that along to the commission. And sometimes commissioners will have a exhaustive list of the things they kind of want, and sometimes they don't. And both are honestly fine with me. I quite enjoy filling up the space with little items I think fit the character. I find that a lot of fun. So here we have just a rough kind of raven skull coming in there. Often I work back in with an eraser just to kind of sharpen it up. Kind of see that's mostly going to be kind of darkened out there. And there we go. That's just a cute little bit of extra item to put down at the bottom. I'm going to just resize it a tiny bit, make sure it's in the right position. I just like filling the space really with these things. And then what we can do is we're just going to go ahead. We are going to turn down the opacity there. I am going to make a new layer on top, also set to multiply. What I'm going to do, I'm going to grab the same color that I've used for the text up here. The character's name is Revenant, which is why it says Revenant up there. I know that Revenant is also like a type of thing you can be, so try not to be confusing there. Thank you so much to Yozora Heart, Pikachu, and Memewell for the follows. I hope you enjoy the stream. Right, I'm now gonna grab a brush I quite like for doing this kind of sketchy line art style of thing. This should come preloaded with most copies of Photoshop. It's called the Kyle Ultimate set. And I really like the very top one, the Ultimate Pencil Hard. It's just a very nice brush for getting that nice, slightly grungy, really satisfying pencil-y texture. Hey, Lotta B, thank you so much for the sub. That's very, very sweet of you. Thank you so much. Subs really do make a huge difference, and it's just always, just a very nice thing. So thank you so much. It's very kind. I must admit, these ref sheets have been so much fun to work on. This is the third and final of the commissioned ref sheets. So if you did ask for a ref sheet, I'm afraid they did all get snapped up. And when I get in contact with you, I will be discussing the alternatives, or if you'd like to wait for the next kind of commissions go rounds. But yeah, these have been immense fun, so I will most definitely be offering more of these ref sheet commissions in the future. So now, yeah, just putting the details and lining out these straps nicely, getting them to look all nicely presented. Yeah, Lotta B, you were the third one, actually. You snuck it in just in time. Alright, let's just pop in the last of these straps here. Hey Tilly, welcome. Yes, it was definitely a timing thing, so thank you so much to everyone who snagged one. I promise if you didn't, I will be making more of them available in the future because they are a delight, and I really enjoy working on them. Okay, just adding a little bit of a border there. This is going to be a very simple pouch. There's not going to be too many detailed extras and stuff on it. That's the thing I quite like. I think it really expands on a character's personality when you can fill the space with objects that would be meaningful to them. Whether it's in the case of my druid, I added lots of different herbs and flowers that she might carry. Sometimes characters might have quite a lot of weapons that mean quite a lot to them, so they will be featured. Sometimes it's about, the familiars. Familiars are very important. And in this case, the character wanted their spiritual weapon to be featured, which is why that is there. Yes, this is a Raven Queen, the Raven Queen lass who has her own ref sheet, and which is almost finished. I'm just finishing that off before I move on to working on the Aasimar piece today. Because it's good to get work finished off, I like to finish one project best as I can before starting another one, or at least I got most of this one done last night, and I just wanted to tick it off before I start working on other things today. I love doing this particular kind of pencil-y, slightly more hand-drawn, traditional look line art. It's really satisfying, brings me a lot of joy. Oh, Pikachu, thank you so much. I am working on a screen tablet, yes. I'm using the Wacom 16, which is a tablet I've had for 2.5 years now. I've been very pleased with it. I occasionally have problems with it disconnect the screen kind of just blacking out and disconnecting very briefly, but that doesn't happen too often, like usually only once, twice a day and only for a few seconds. But yeah. Just gonna add a bit of hatching in here. And I think that's one of the main reasons I like screen tablets, is they do kind of speed up the process a bit. I'm quite a lot slower when I work on a normal non-screen tablet, which I did for quite a few years. And this has definitely sped up my workflow. So I think if you're looking to do illustration professionally, it can be a very worthwhile acquisition. Let's just put in the bottom bit of the beak there. Obviously we're going to have a bit more hatching just in that part there in the dark. And then joining up the lower part of the skull down there. Alright, and then we can just get rid of the little layer we had underneath. And that has nicely filled the space down there a little bit. So there we go. This is the ref sheet for this very adorable character. And I'm just going to go ahead and save it. And that one's basically done. So do expect to see this one popping up on socials later this afternoon. But yeah, line art on a regular tablet is very tough. I 100% agree with that. I think if I went back to it now after using the kind of screen tablet for quite a while, I would definitely struggle. I know that you can use, like, I know a lot of artists like to use iPads for that sort of thing, and that can be another kind of avenue to explore if getting a tablet purely for digital art is a little bit of a big expense. Anyway, I think it's time to move on to this character, which is the character I kind of teased for today's stream. What we're going to be working on today with this character is her lovely wings and her adorable little familiar. So I think the first thing we're going to start with here are the wings. I've already separated the kind of rough line art for the wings out from the rest of the line art. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just give it a little bit of a tidy. As you can see, rather than tight line art here, I'm actually working from what is basically the original sketch. And the reason for this is I find with tight, lucky-looking line art, feathery, slightly ethereal wings like this can get a little bit lost. So what I'm doing is I'm actually going to be digitally painting them straight underneath the sketch rather than using any line art. Which is a slightly different technique to the way I colour everything else, so it'll be quite probably worth it while showing. So what I'm doing now, I'm basically just tidying up any bits of the sketch that are a little bit rough, such as kind of extra lines that are coming outside of the areas we're going to be painting in. Let's check there's any down here. No, we're good on this wing. Awesome, so with our kind of line art prepared, we can go ahead and start whacking down a base layer. I'm going to do the base layer for both wings at the same time, I think. And to do this, I'm just going to up my minimum pen pressure so I don't kill my arm. And the wings are going to be the same colour as the kind of raven blue dark section of the hair. So we're going to use the same colour as our base layer. Okie dokie. Yeah, quite fair, I agree. Like, iPad Pros are incredibly expensive. I got a second-hand one refurbished, so that came to, honestly, probably roughly the same price as my tablet. And I bought it because I wanted an ability to work if I was traveling. It's been very good. I find it's quite difficult to get, if you are familiar with Wacom tablets and that sort of product, it takes a while to get used to the interface and everything, but if you dedicate time to it, it's like anything, you'll get there. Alright, so as usual, I'm basically going to start by drawing a outline. Why is my flow down to 38? We don't want that. Actually, do we want that? Yeah, it makes it a little bit softer, doesn't it? Yeah, so basically I'm just going to start by wrapping down a base layer that covers the base area of where the wings are going to cover. So with a large brush, I'm just, not particularly neatly, just filling in the areas of each of these flight feathers. For painting wings, I thoroughly recommend reference. I searched through images of birds for such a long time when I was coming up with a sketch for this character to find wing positions that worked for the pose. So it's worth doing, especially if there's like a specific pose in mind. So yeah, photographs are good. It's good if you can identify the right bird for the shape of wings, if that makes sense. I mean, I'm not a bird expert by any means, but I kind of knew, based on the information I was given by the commissioner, what sort of bird would have this wing shape. And it turned out to be skuas, which are large, semi-predatory birds in kind of around the Antarctic Circle. And they have these lovely sharp-edged, kind of pointed wings, which work really well for this character. Good evening, Elleran, and welcome to the stream. Alright, so let's just fill in that one. And then I'm actually just gonna do the base for the other one before I go ahead and paint over the white lines. You can see that the edge here isn't super tasty. It's because I have merged, to keep my computer from chugging too bad, I have merged the version of the character with the multiply layer separate and all the layers broken up into basically one flat layer, just so I can see it without having to have all the separate layers active and slowing down my computer. So that will be resolved later. I like how I'm none of those things around. I'm okay with that. This, I believe, is an Aasimar, and this is with their wings bamfed out. I think she's an Aasimar anyway. Her name is Riza, coincidentally, which is funny because I've got a D&D character named Riza. And I believe she is a divination wizard. Yeah, it's a shame that Avariel weren't actually included after they did the Unearthed Arcana testing on them, but I understand that a lot of DMs struggle with flying characters. Which is funny because in a lot of games I've played in, there's at least one character that starts the game with boots of flying, so it renders that kind of requirement inert. Thank you so much to Stark TV for the follow. And yeah, I'm just going to carry on filling in all the tips of these feathers. Working our way up slowly. It's a slow process, but we shall get there. And eventually joining up with the main kind of body of the character. Okay, and then once we've done that, once we've joined up, we just need to make sure the two back parts are connected, and then we can fill. No, we can't, because I've missed something. What have I done? That all joins up there. That joins up there. So what could the problem be? Try again. Okay, there we go. It's fine. Lovely. Alright, so what we need to do now is to fill in these nasty white lines. And then we'll have a nice flat layer for the wings to work on. Kick Aasimar, I suppose, would be accurate. Yeah, I never found flying too difficult either. I've got, in the D&D game that I run, I'm pretty sure one of the characters could fly if they wanted to, and it's never really been a problem. Oh, that was it. In my party did this wonderful, delightful thing that I had to kind of go with because I loved it. They built a sort of flight suit, like a kite almost, for the party's Kenku. So, and because I'm running Realm of the Frost Maiden, they spend a lot of time traveling between places on dog sled. So they strap the Kenku up to this kind of flight suit, and the high strength blood hunter of the party basically overarm yeets them from the back of the sled whilst they're traveling very fast, and their Kenku just kind of flies up there like a kite. And it was such an adorable image, I had to kind of just allow it because it's so cute. Which reminds me, I am finally, after many weeks, returning to our game of Rime of the Frost Maiden tonight. I am continuing to Dungeon Master for this campaign, and I'm very excited because last session we left off with our little level 4 party, having just run into a cold light walker in the tundra. And now they're going to have to decide whether they're going to fight it or not, which will be fun because I believe it's a level 5 challenge rating 5 encounter. But they're a very smart party, so I'm looking forward to giving them a little bit of a challenge. Okie dokie. Right, so we now have our base layer all painted in and looking nice, so it is time to begin. Cold Light Walkers are so cool. They're my favourite monster in one of my favourite D&D monsters, full stop, I think, actually. They're just so scary. Wonderful. So with this layer now down, what we need to do is make sure the alpha channel is clipped, and we're going to reset our brush settings back down to 0, and then I'm going to make sure I have my own references brought up, so because wings are not a super easy thing to paint, as you might have guessed. Right, so to start with, we're going to grab a lighter color. I know this is weird for me. We're going to go ahead and just paint the entirety of the top folded portion of this wing this lighter blue. As it is kind of arched over, it will be catching the light somewhat more, and we want to kind of get a nice contrast between the top side and the underside. And don't forget to say thank you very much for the reminder, Andrew Genius. That's very, very kind of you. Wonderful. So, as we progress forward, the next thing we need to do is add some shadows. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a dark purple from the hair. Again, we're using the same colours from the hair for the wings. And I'm going to just go ahead and all but cover... Whoops. I do not want a 5,000 size brush. My computer will destroy itself. And I'm basically just going to paint almost all of this area from the shadows cast by the side of the wing that's kind of coiling over. And what I might do while I'm here is I'm just going to just do a suggestion of the dark on the other side as well, because I think it's important to kind of match that. Just a very roughly scrubbed gradient, just to remind myself when I get to paint the other wing. But this will be the kind of the rough shape and kind of values that we're working with these wings. Oh, Tilly17, you've got it. Like, don't rush yourself. It's worth taking the time to find a game that you truly love. But you'll get there. Just don't rush yourself, and yeah, you'll get there. It takes a while. It took me, honestly, forever to find a 5e group that I vibed with, but when I did, it was lovely. And now I'm running, like I say, I'm running a game for them, so... Alright, so as you can see, we have the basic shape ready to go. Now comes the scary bit. Now we actually need to start painting in some feathers. So we're actually going to go ahead and make a new line. This is essentially a wing over lines layer. This is what's going to be going on top of the sketch layer, and this is where we're going to be painting a lot of our detail. So we're first of all going to grab a brighter blue colour. I think this might be the same colour we've used for some aspects of the wing already. Make a brush a bit smaller, and just start layering on very gently the shapes of how these feathers are going to go on. And hey, thank you so much to Lethan64 for the follow. I might have already said that one, but if I didn't, thank you. And then once we've kind of started layering this on, we can do some blending, because you're right, we are back to blending. You can never escape blending on this channel. I'm just doing lots of very short, sharp strokes here to build up the light and colour coming in. And there won't be an awful lot of feather definition right here at the top, because a lot of the feathers are going to be teeny tiny. It's only as we progress down the length of the wing that we start getting longer flight feathers taking place. So let's start looking at that. We are indeed going to get the first kind of secondary feathers. I think the primaries are the long ones. I don't know my feather wording super well, clearly. But we're going to have slight... I'm actually kind of... At this point, I start completely ignoring my own sketch because it's time. Because what I need to do tends to be a lot more detailed than what the sketch provides. So, the loyalty to the sketch breaks down at this point. Obviously, the most light will be on this back side, and the least will be around the front. So as I'm going, I'm also adding in shadow. Is that brush just a general one with a bit of a low opacity? Orange just got not quite. It's almost that. Hold on, let me just pin my hair back behind my headphones again. It's almost that. It's a regular hard round pressure size brush, this one. But rather than having the opacity turned down, it actually has the transfer setting turned on, and this basically links the level at which how hard I press the pen is linked to how opaque the stroke is. So I am only pressing very lightly, which means the opacity is very weak, and I can control that based on how hard I press. I do also have flow turned down a bit. I might just turn that up a tiny bit. Flow can also dictate the opacity of the brush. Flow is kind of like, I like to think of it as how much paint you've loaded up your brush with, if this makes sense. Anyway, so you can see we've now started to pop in the secondary flight feathers there. And then finally, whoops, sometimes it likes to put little dollops on for me that I didn't ask for. I'm just going to start adding some colour to the primaries. Obviously, you're going to get a little bit of shadow where the secondaries overlap the primaries. Photoshop. No blobs, please. Which will come in there, as you can kind of see where the primaries come down from. And then we can go ahead and add a bit more light. So we've already got to the lightest part of her hair. So we're going to select a slightly lighter colour. Oh my goodness. My hair just keeps falling over my face today. It's not what I want. Anyway, we are going to go ahead and add some more light on the far side, because this is where we're getting the most kind of luminosity. That helps to build up a little bit of softness and a little bit more shape. I really need to tie my hair back before I stream. Oh. Did my desktop audio just stop? That's very weird. Don't know quite what's going on there. There we go. And yeah, we can basically use this lighter colour to add a little bit more lighting coming from the back. To add a bit more texture in there to that top kind of back surface. And what I'm also going to do, I'm going to take a real dark colour, because we are going to have areas of darkness here. So right where the wing kind of folds over itself, we're going to get a little bit more darkness coming in. I'm going to get kind of more dark shading on that side. As well as down here. And get larger feathers coming in, contrasting with the little bitty ones. And then we just start to get a nice kind of feathery texture that gradually builds up. And it's a lot of blending, it's a lot of give and take and adding tone and taking it away. But such is most areas of painting, so it's nothing you haven't done before. What kind of ASMR of this? I think they are Guardian. The commissioner would have to tell you for sure, but I don't know if they are currently in chat. Just gonna add just a little bit more shadow coming down here, smoothing out some of the shadow we already have before I think about moving on to the bottom part of the wings, the primaries. So just a little bit more shadow, and I want to blend it in as usual. There we go. Okay, so let's work our way down to these primaries. God, my hair is really annoying me. Whew. This is a problem when your hair gets long. Alright, so now for these primaries. I kind of want a slightly harsher line separating the secondaries out. So I'm just going to add that in first. If you hear squeaking, it's my tablet. Oh, Orange Shoes God, thank you so much for joining today, and see you next time. Cool, I'm actually going to grab a really nice dark colour, just because I want to do a bit of an outline here. Just change the edge there a tiny bit. Okay, now we can begin with these primaries. So we are going to find again a kind of the striping effect of dark and light coming in. We're going to have to try and get these nice and neat, because obviously based on our perspective the feathers are quite bunched up, so we're going to get quite tight stripes. Interesting. Oh, that's really cool, Night Pixie. I really like hearing about this sort of homebrew in people's games. I just find it really interesting. There we go. There is some nice kind of shape coming along there. There's a few other things I want to do. I kind of want to add a bit more brightness and tending towards grey. As we reach the outer tips of the feathers, we start to have an ever such a slight change in opacity, as the feathers are obviously quite a lot kind of like thinner than other materials, especially at the tip. So I'm just going to add a little bit more lightness at the tips of these feathers. Oh, that brush is a bit too small. Okay, so that's kind of the top of one wing, looking rather nice. I'm going to do a tiny bit of blending on this edge, I think. Just because I want nice kind of texture coming through there, and I want the idea of some kind of layered up feathers kind of happening. Cool, so I think we can play with the inside of the wing. As just one more thing, I just want to do a tiny bit more in the way of highlighting on the kind of outside edges of these wings, because they really should be brighter. There we go, that gives them straight away gives them a little bit more in the way of 3 dimensions. Awesome, so now for the inner section of the wing, I'm actually going to probably do this on its own layer. We will eventually merge all of these together, but for now, we will keep them separate. I'm going to grab that dark purple and just straight up start just working in the shapes of the flight feathers. So we've kind of got a top layer here. This is not dark enough. There we go. Which is coming down and across. And this is actually mostly going to be filled in. It's going to be very dark. So let's actually go ahead and just straight up paint this in. Because as you know, I prefer to paint with light than with darkness. Like painting purely with dark colors does my head in. Nope, didn't mean to do that. And then this is actually going to extend all the way down to about there. So then I'll also go ahead and fill in that line working across. Alright, so with a slightly lighter color, we can start again suggesting individual feathers. I don't want to get super detailed here because this is such a specific small area. We don't want to lose the forest for the trees. Hey, thank you so much to Sarah Starchild and Anvil242 for the follows. Alright, so we're just going to very gently continue adding in these feathers. And what I'm thinking is it's time to add even more darkness. Just to show where they overlap. As we get towards the body, obviously this dark increases. And what we're going to be doing is we are going to be blending in these colors so we get a nice smooth kind of graduation between them. And obviously we are remembering that, whoops, this whole area is going to have a slight shadow of the arm upon it, so it's going to be quite dark anyway. And then blend, 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 blend to get all of these working nicely together. And just a little bit of fluffy texture in there. You can see by the time we zoom out, a lot of those details kind of coalesce together to give a nice little bit of texture there. Okay, so we're going to continue with that dark up here to basically do the same sort of thing. Hey, thank you so much, Tankbox TV, for the follow. Alright, and then it's a matter of, like before, defining shapes, because we've also got the muscular underneath here, which is going to give us a bit of definition in terms of like the shapes within the shapes. This is probably sounding like complete garbage, but you're going to get some kind of roundness to the upper edge of this wing, where there's going to be a lot of kind of muscular presence. It'll be a bit thicker, because it's where a lot of the power is being stored. Take that dark color again. And then blending, blending, blending. Alright, so we can now move on to like the next level of feathers, I think. And at this point we basically are going to get just these layered up flight feathers, really. More of what we've already been working with. So with a dark brush, I'm not going to be painting the whole area dark first. This is where we're going to start getting a bit lighter. I'm basically just going to be working out the placement of these feathers. Because wings are super complicated. This is kind of why I have to charge extra for them. Because there's a lot of time that goes into painting wings, as I'm sure you kind of understand. So basically just smoothing and blending down from the top layer to show where they're kind of shadowed. And then we can go back in with the lighter colours. And yeah, we basically just kind of carry on like this for a little bit. Blending and extending kind of lines where we can. There we go, just getting it nice and smooth and soft. Soft is very important. Lovely. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to carry on some of these dark lines down to these larger feathers. Again, once again, shading down from where the overlap occurs. And then kind of blending from that point. What we're going to do though is, because I want to bring some kind of lighter tones back into this, is this bottom edge I might add just a tiny bit of lightness to. And then blending that in. Just as we don't want to get completely stuck in the dark here. So I'm actually going to bring some of this lightness to these other feathers down the bottom. As you see. And then blend that in. Always winging it. Alright, now we can continue with the dark bits. And just following that all the way back to the source near the body, where it will once again get a bit darker. And then once again we're just blending these shadows in and across to get a nice soft finish. There we go, looking nice. I'm just going to tidy up a few of the edges and then we'll be ready to move on to the other wing. There we go. There is one wing down. Let's remember to save. Thank you very much, Elleran, for the reminder. Now we can, like I say, move on to the second wing. So I'm just going to grab my reference for the other wing because I have reference for all the different wings. There we go. Wonderful. Now this wing isn't curved over, which might make life slightly easy for us. On the other hand, it might not. I just don't know yet. So we're just going to start with dark purple and use that to outline the areas that need to be outlined. Right, so we're going to start with this bit up here. Where we're going to have like the secondary feathers surrounded on top by a layer of kind of like tiny little feathers that just kind of cover the top layer. You tend to get a lot there. And then naturally we are going to blend all of this in. Do Avariel and Tressum get along? I mean, I like to imagine they do. Well, as much as, you know, humans and cats get along, presumably. Alright, so, grabbing my lighter color, I'm going to go ahead and start adding in some small, kind of initial feathers. Again, it helps to have a nice rounded brush for doing this. This is just kind of get some initial texture down and on the page. And then naturally, it will involve a bit of blending. Just to soften that all together. And then we can go ahead and grab some of this lighter blue that we've been using over here and use this for highlights on this top edge, of which we are going to have quite a few. And then it's going to blend them in as we go along a little bit. Then just pick up the light color again and basically do the same sort of thing. Just like bringing in a texture rather than anything. We don't need to worry as much about individual feathers in this sort of area. It's more about creating a general feathery texture. For this kind of top edge area. So this is actually going to continue all the way along back to the base. And then we'll just save as we go along because we don't want to lose our work, obviously. And this is the part where I would like to bring in some of this dark again, because you do start to get something in the way of very small feathers coming in at about here. Thank you so much to Maximo3D for the follow. Hope you enjoy the stream. And then once again, there's a lot of blending involved. As we see kind of those very small feathers coming right back along the wing there. And then we are of course gonna, once again, I'm afraid there is blending because you can't escape it. And then a bit of a darker color coming in where the fold happens naturally in the wing, just there. Okay, I think we're ready to move on to the next level, feather level. So what I'm actually going to do what I did earlier because this is a slightly quicker technique. I'm just going to fill the whole area that I'm going to be working in dark. Grab the light and just start bringing the light back in. Okay, and with that, once again, we need to go in with that darker color. We can add kind of like the layer underneath it. Like so. We wanted to go this way, really, didn't we? Let's just quickly change some of these feather directions. There we go, that's better. And then we can just kind of add a little bit more shadow. There we go. A little bit more texture in there, and then finally we can start moving on to these larger flight feathers over here. So, with a tiny bit more blending, just to make everything a little bit softer over here. It was getting just a little bit too harsh. There we go. It is time to work on these. They're not even secondaries at this point. I guess they're tertiaries? I don't know. There's probably a better word for it. There would be another one here. Lovely. So, with that done, once again, blending from the top. And wherever it's kind of being overlapped by another feather. And then, similarly, adding light on the outside edge. And off from the bottom, I like adding a bit of light to the bottom as well, just to bring them out. There we go. There's another layer of feather. Now we can move on to the next layer of feathers. You can kind of anticipate how this is going to work out. So I'm just going to save again. You can kind of see all the work we've done and the difference it makes there. Wonderful. So next level of feathers. How do I want to do this one? I think we'll do it very similarly to how we've done the others. You know, carry on a trend. Just going to grab that slightly darker colour from up there, as we naturally start to get a bit darker. Adding shadow beneath. And in the overlaps again, just a little bit. There you go, you can see them taking shape. Then we can go ahead and add the light. And as we move down the wing, the colours are going to get a bit lighter. Yep, it's a time-consuming character. Wings always are though, because you've got to basically paint individual feathers, work out the structure. Wings interacting with human bodies are always very strange and takes a bit of anatomy work to try and get it to look like it's actually going to function. Alright, that is another level. What I might start doing is adding a little bit more kind of extra light in certain places. For example, along the inside edge of the flight feathers, you tend to get a little bit. And on the very outside edge of the wing itself. Alright, let's go save again. because I like to keep saving. And we can continue on with the final layer of flight feathers. I am going to just in between do a little bit of shading here and there to add a bit of dark as we start getting closer to the body. Which you would naturally kind of find would be happening around here. There we go. And yeah, we can just kind of get started with the next bit. So let's do that. Let's do that. So starting with shading, starting from the base of the feather and working outwards. Obviously we will be blending to make this nice and smooth. Good. And then obviously once again we'll be bringing in that light as we get towards the ends of the feathers. Like so. This is another way to help kind of build up feathers without necessarily having to use as much dark shadowy stuff. And then blending. Just want to get a tiny bit of texture there in some of these as we move along. More blending, more blending. But yeah, you can kind of see that it ends up a lot softer without the presence of a sharp liner, and that is definitely something I do intentionally with when it comes to wings and feathers, because I think it makes them look just a little bit better, a little bit nicer. But I am going to be grabbing some darker shadow just to work in with a small brush in a few key areas. This just helps. Some places you need a bit more definition, so it's important to go in with a small brush and just work that out. See how it's coming together nicely there. Alright, I actually want to push back some of this light a bit. It's coming over too much. Alright, and then I'm basically just going to continue working my way back through the rest of the primaries. And then obviously we will be blending this in, because it's not going to be quite that bright all the way through. And then as we get right to the body, it we'll lose some of the detail, because what we'll be doing is we'll be wanting it to almost blend in nice and seamlessly with the body shapes. So you won't need to get a lot of detail in there. But we will need to bring in some of the dark shade around here and blend it in. then sometimes you need to draw it a little bit further along. And with a little save, there are our lovely wings for this character, which have come out very nicely. You can see everything we just did, all those details, from start to finish there on the wings. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to straight up merge the whole lot together, like so. And then we can do a little bit of additional bits and pieces. For example, we can go in with an eraser tool, like so, and we can just tidy up edges. So let me just make this nice and small. No, I want the eraser, not the brush. We can also add kind of imperfections and just a little bit of texture to the edges of feathers. No. I recently changed my toolbar kind of shape and stuff, so I keep selecting the wrong tools all the time. Just generally tidying up the edges of the feathers and making them a little bit more lifelike. There we go. And you can do the same thing over here, but over here most of the feathers are already kind of overlapping each other anyway, so it doesn't matter quite so much. Okay, what next? I do want to have a look, see what it looks like with the base, with the actual kind of character on top rather than this kind of merged version, because it has these nicer darker edges. What I think I'm going to go ahead and do is just go ahead and really, really kind of go over these edges to make them look nice. So I'm going to go down to a size 6 brush with this dark colour. And I'm basically just going around these edges with a dark colour so that when we zoom out, they stand out nicely against the wings. And these aren't particularly, I know these aren't the most exciting tricks in the world, but they're quite important for finishing your piece and making sure it all kind of works together and looks nice when it's all painted up. That's the thing, the soft and fluffy look is really helped if you don't have a harsh line art over the top, I find. And then, like you say, I'm just going over with the dark colour. Get these edges all looking nice. The hand is alright because I've already kind of gone around that, so the other thing we'll do is just go around this hip. No, I don't think so. I think a lot of tabletop streamers use Kai Engel's music because it's very good and very atmospheric. So. Okay, it's time to save again because saving makes our world go round. Wonderful. So we've got some wings. I'm very pleased with them. We have a little while left though, so let's have a think about what we want to do next. And I think the answer to what do we want to do next is we've got to do this little kitty. This kitty is very important to me, so I'm just going to drag up once again the reference materials for this character, and I do believe the cat's color scheme has been left fairly open. What I am thinking is I give them a slightly kind of galaxy tortoiseshell look, in that we're going to start with a similar navy purpley blue to the wings and the hair, and then we're going to have patches of purples and blues to kind of make them look a little bit more celestial. So I'm going to drag the cat lines out now. I'm going to, well, wings are their own group at this point, so we don't need to worry about that. So with cat lines dragged out, we're going to make another layer underneath. I'm just going to call it, for now, cat. Space cat, exactly. I'm going to turn up my minimum pen pressure just to make basing a little less energy, a little less achy on my arm. And then, actually, I'm going to use a different approach for filling this chap in. What I'm going to do is make sure I've got the color I used to do the sketch. A really tiddly tiny brush. I think I did it with like a size 3 or 4. I'm going to go around and I'm going to make sure that all of these lines are closed. This is the most important first step. So I'm going to go around all of the line art for the cat. The thing about drawing fluffy animals is you tend to get a lot of open spots in your line art. So that's why it's important to go around and make sure it's all closed. You can see there's a bit of an open bit there. The computer might think that's open there. Yeah, I'm just going to go around and make sure everything to do with this line art is closed. That's all fine. The paws are fine. Work our way down the tummy. There we go. This bottom paw just needed a little bit there. I think we're okay coming up through there. Then the tail. The tail's probably going to be quite a big offender. Close that. Close that. Work our way up and around. Mostly this is okay, actually. Bit there. And then meeting back up more or less where we started. Right, so what we can now do is, we are going to select the whole area outside of Ale Kitty Cat, which includes this little bit down here. I actually might push my luck a bit. I'm going to turn the tolerance up to 50. There we go. That just gives us a bit more. And once I've done that, what we're going to do is we're going to go select inverse. So now we're basically selecting the cat and not everything else. Then I'm just going to go ahead, grab a purpley colour that we've used elsewhere. And on the cat layer, now going back down to the layer we're using for the colours, I'm just going to fill it in. And as you can see, it's not perfect, but we have a fill of the kitty cat, who we can now begin refining. So, what we are going to do, we are going to start just by erasing a little bit in a few areas where we want the outside to be a little bit softer. That's the one downside of this technique for filling, is you end up with quite a harsh fill line. Alright, so with that done, we can start playing with some colours. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that is locked. Make sure I've got my favourite type of brush. And then we can kind of just start playing with colours. So I'm going to start by adding a slightly darker colour on the ears. Like so. And I think I might also have the muzzle slightly darker, like a little bit like a Himalayan, I think, is the cat that has these markings. Then I'm going to do a similar thing. The tail. Tail's going to be a bit darker. And what we are going to do is we're actually going to have a lighter colour for the belly. And coming up under the chin. And this is just kind of a rough experiment as how we're going to want to do these colours. I am kind of just playing with the space, to be honest. So as I mentioned, we're going to have the white coming up through this area here. I say white, it's more like a pale grey. And I quite like the idea of the paws being pale as well, maybe even just one paw, or like one paw on each side, so maybe we'll have this little foot being pale as well. And then we can go ahead and just add, oh yeah, like you tend to find that if you have a white tummy, you get kind of the fluff at the back, and the insides of the legs can be white as well. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and add in that detail. And then just going a little way under the tail as well. Okay, now we can play around with some colours a bit. So to start with, I'm going to put some kind of purple patches. Because I think it's important to add purple to your cat. Then we're going to do the same but with blue. This is very foreboding music for painting a cute cat. And then we're going to have this blue, I think, coming around top of the head. And then we'll go back to a bit of purple on the forehead and the cheeks. Then it's just a matter of blending. And the thing with painting fur is you don't necessarily need to blend with the plain brush. You can use a fur brush to do it. So that's what I'm going to do. And using these kind of brushes to blend with ends up giving you a really nice texture. As you can see, coming together quite nicely there. And what I'm doing is I'm going back and forth in the areas where these colours kind of join each other. And then you end up with this kind of furry connection line almost. And then we're just going to do that in all the areas where we've got fur colours that are changing. Including when we have the grey going to the pale grey. Which is happening in a few points. And then we're going to have similar over here with the tummy. And the neck. Oops. Alright, so this is basic kind of start off to our colours. I'm just going to do a little tiny bit of blend on here. And then a slightly lighter grey patch up here, because I kind of want to have some little kind of spots of lighter colours coming in. Such as like on the elbow, you might have some lighter colour there. And that, I think, is a good place to start us off. Oh, I need to do a bit of over here by the tail. There we go. Nice and blended and floofy. Okay, so the next thing to do is to start working on the shading for the cat. So what I tend to do, and this goes for furry animals and most things, is I make a clipping mask on top, and you'll be very familiar with this technique. I'm grabbing that grayed out pinky magenta colour, and I am going to just go ahead and fill that all in. You see? And the next thing to do is to go back to a white colour brush, return to our usual kind of round brush, and then using this, we will erase the parts of the shadows which will be kind of light rather than dark. So I'm going to start on the back because we've got like a less broad area on the back where we won't be having as much shadow. Then obviously the shoulder coming through to the paw. We've got kind of like the rough situation here. And around the back of the head. And the backs of the ears as well. Top of the nose and the muzzle, and there'll be a bit of light on the cheek too. And what you can do as you're doing this is you can be kind of, again, blending these shadows together to get like a gentle kind of shade coming across. And we do need to add a bit of light, probably just to his little peaks down there. The top of the paw, I think, will have light on it. And then we have the tail. Now, the tail's an odd one. It's a lot of the light and shadow on the tail is going to come from fur rendering, which I will need to do separately. And you can kind of see where the fill hasn't done a great job here, but that's not going to matter because I'm just going to show you quickly a little bit of what I'm going to do to make this fur look nice. Often what I'm going to do is I'll make another overlines layer. Crying out loud, it's not registering my double clicks very much. There we go. And then we are going to go ahead and just be building up colors. Often a bit lighter than the color that's beneath them. But we're going to be painting on top of these lines. And adding up this nice, furry, floofy color like so. And then we're just constantly eyedropping to move between different types of colors. So we're going between purples to blues to grays. And this is very much what we're going to be doing over the entire cat to build up this furry texture. So for example, on top of the head, and then we can move that into true blue, especially as we're coming down here. And then of course we've got this white ruff, we need to actually take it back to white. So we get our nice pale white tone, and especially on these edges where light almost will shine through, we can start to get that furry texture back. And then we're basically going to continue this technique over the entire kitty. However, that might have to be for another time because I am very hungry. It is dinner time, and I am running Dungeons and Dragons very shortly, so I need to go and prepare for my session. So, thank you all so much for joining me today. I'm going to pop some links in chat, starting with Twitter. Twitter will be where you can see my finished work, find out about upcoming streams, as well as just kind of keep up to date with everything I'm doing. So it's a good place to drop a follow. Instagram is a good place to look at my art. I guess Instagram is mostly for that kind of stuff. So I spelled Instagram wrong, didn't I? Yeah, there we go. Boop. So check out my Instagram if you want to kind of see a gallery of the work that I've got. And I tend to upload everything on there as well as Twitter, so kind of take your pick. Next up, YouTube. I have a YouTube channel which has past streams and VODs. If you want to catch up with some of the work I've done in the past, that's a great place to do it. And finally, let's do music first. The music I use for today's stream and almost all my streams is by an artist named Kai Engel. It's great stuff, very atmospheric, royalty-free music that makes great ambience for your D&D games and all sorts of things, really. And finally, Patreon. If you would like to support me or the work that I do, please consider dropping a sub over on either Patreon or Twitch. Both help massively towards kind of passive income and so that I can do this as my full-time occupation. And both will also grant you access to our little exclusive Discord where you can share your own art, get feedback, talk about D&D, and all sorts. Alright, so with that, you can find me back here on Friday, hopefully, fingers crossed on Friday, at 5 PM UK time. I will be probably working on some brand new characters. Who knows what I'll be doing. But until then, I hope you all have a fantastic week. Stay safe, look after yourselves, and I will be back very soon.